Hi, welcome to video 3, Consultant's Blog 2 Configuration, and this video I'm going to talk about the plugins. I'm not going to go into detail with every plugin. Every plugin you can go and look online and it'll tell you exactly how to do everything. But I'm just going to go through and tell you what each one does and why it's there, so you can kind of understand how that fits in with the whole system. So the first plugin up here, actually there's an Akismet plugin up here which is to do with blocking spam, but I've actually turned off comments on your blog. It's a business blog. You probably don't really want comments on it, to be honest. But if you do enable comments on the blog, then you need to also enable this Akismet as well. You can put an API key in, but it will be completely free to get, and it'll help block all that horrible spam stuff. Okay, auto terms of service and privacy policy. You saw that. It's the TOS and privacy policy that we're showing on the page is auto-generated by that plugin. Okay, we have a back WP up. Now this was the standard backup plugin that I've been using for a long time, but more recently I've started to move to a different plugin, and we've got one down here called Updraft, because Updraft allows you more scope in your backups, and it has one thing that the free back WP up doesn't have. Back WP up doesn't have an automated restore function. You have to manually restore. That's okay in an emergency, but the Updraft will actually automatically restore as well. So to restore from an Updraft, you simply need to install a base blog, install the Updraft plugin, which is free, and then you can find your backup and restore from it. And of course, it also allows you to back up to things like Amazon S3, to Google Drive, etc. So you can actually do off-site backups, which I seriously recommend. Again, they're very straightforward to do, very easy to use, and they've got all instructions in there, so you can go to the actual page. It says view details, so or go off to the actual updraft.com. There's all instructions for these things, so if you really want to do some detailed analysis or some understanding of the plugins deeply, then go to their pages and get the full information from there. Okay, contact form for Subsystic, I think that's pronounced. So this is the contact forms that we use both on the contact page and in the sidebar. Again, we can look at the settings for that. I'll just have a quick look. See, I've only got one called main configured. This is an opt-in form. If I just click that little pencil icon, it'll open up the ability to edit it. And there you can see the form down here. And basically to edit it, it's really just about changing the various colors, or you can, in this case, you can select an image. You can decide whether you want image or colors for the various sections. There's the image over here. As I say, it's very straightforward. And for fields, if you want to change any of this text over the top, the fields are here. You can delete them from the bucket by hitting the bin. So this is your name, email, enter your message, and your send button. You're pretty much sure you want those. And the HTML at the top. So if I click that, it opens up a little editor, so you can edit, I'll put it on visual, so you can edit the actual top part of this section here. And of course you can create more forms if you felt the need. Okay, let's just go back to plugins. And the next one we have is a cookie consent. There's no configuration on that one really, that's the one that for the UK cookie consent rules. The custom CSS, whole site and per page, that's where I showed you at the bottom of each page there was a special section for styling for individual pages. That's what generates those boxes for you. I've got a plugin here called Duplicate Posts, or Duplicate Post. It's not turned on at the moment. You generally probably won't need it, but I've left it in there. It means that you can clone posts, not checking for duplicate posts. It's actually duplicate or duplicate a post, so you can. It will put a little clone menu here. If I just turn it on, I'll show you, and activate it. And if I go to posts, all posts, you will now see we've got a clone on there, and we can clone those posts. Okay, so that's maybe useful and maybe not. That's why it's turned off generally. So this is the fancy latest post widget. And this creates a widget for us that puts the latest posts, which we saw in the right hand bar in video 1. Handsome testimonials. This is the testimonials one. This puts up the random testimonials. And to generate testimonials, you need to go to testimonials. Let's go to all testimonials. And you'll see you generate them pretty much like you generate posts, but you generate them in testimonials here. So just click add new and you can add ones in or delete or edit these. So it works exactly the same as the normal post edit. But pretty much all you do is just add your image in, featured image. So add your featured image in, add your title in. And then here you can add in a position, a URL if necessary. And you can add your testimonial in here. Okay, let's go back to the plugins. And next we have iTheme security. Now that should have gone, you should have already set this one up from the initial installation. It's got instructions for there, but let's just go to settings on that one. Basically all you need to do in this one, there's a lot you can do, but I don't recommend, unless you clearly know what you're doing, is playing with any of the stuff because you end up locking yourself out of the site. But what I do recommend that you should do, or you must do, is to go to the network brute force protection, click configure settings. You'll probably see an API key in there. That'll be the API key, one that was generated when this site was template was created. You need to reset the API key, and then your email address should appear in here. If it doesn't appear in here, it probably means you haven't set it up in another area properly. So make sure you go back to your user's profile and your settings general and put your email address in both those places, and then the email address should appear in here. Once that appears in there with your email address, then click save the settings, and then go to security check further up here. Again, go to configure settings and secure site, and then you should get all green down here and you should be good to go. Okay, if you don't have the right email in there, then any messages you get about attacks or problems with the site or any security will go somewhere else and you won't see them. So your plugin won't, or you won't be doing the right thing with the plugin. Okay, back to plugins again, and Jetpack. I would only normally use that if you want to link back to an account on WordPress.com, and that will then enable you to put on things like site statistics, etc. That might be useful for you, but read up on that at WordPress.com. Nice YouTube Lite is just an easy way to embed YouTube videos. It says here, just use a short code, the no comments. That's installed. There's nothing to configure there. That's a turn off comment, as I mentioned earlier, so you don't have people commenting on your site. You really want them to communicate via your opt-in forms or whatever. That's the best way to do that. There's a post date time change. That's because sometimes on a site like this, you don't necessarily want your posts to appear very, very old. So you can actually go into here. If you activate this one, turn it on, then it will give you a list of all your posts and a date and time for those posts. And you can change that date and time to the current date and time, and it brings all your posts up to date. So it's just something that you can do in the future. Remove admin footer version. That works on some blogs and not on others, but it's basically just to get rid of any WordPress kind of note rubbish in the bottom sections. Shortcode Ultimate. I wouldn't worry too much about that. It's a plugin that enables me to do some extra configurations. If you look over here, it says shortcodes, and let me go to settings and go to settings up here, custom CSS. As you see, I have some custom CSS in there, which just helps with some of the configuration. You don't really want to be playing with that unless you are very familiar with CSS. There's a cheat sheet here as well, which tells you all the shortcodes. So it gives you various shortcodes that you can do, like display posts and accordions and dividers, spacers, labels, highlights, quotes, and all various clever things. So, again, if you're familiar with shortcodes, this might help you style your posts more if you want to do that. But I wouldn't really worry too much about that if you're not kind of familiar with these things. It's absolutely not necessary. It's much easier ways to change stuff around, which I'll show you as we go through. So let's just go back to the plugins again. I want to try and get through these in one video if I can. Okay, Slick Contact Forms. That's the little form down here at the tab that I clicked on and it popped up. So you've got the settings in there, you can change the color of that and the wording on that, etc. The slider, obviously the slider's in the top there. Again, if we go to slider, this is a huge IT slider. So if I go there and go to sliders, there's just the one slider set up. You can edit that slider. And it's again fairly straightforward. All the times and the various effects are on the right hand side. Change the images if you want, and of course the description's over the top. Okay, so let's go back to plugins again. Okay, Social Pug. Social Pug is what gives us our social icons tab on the left hand side here, and you'll sometimes see them underneath here at the bottom of posts or pages. You'll see some down there, or they appear on the left hand side. That you can configure there. Telenum linker, that's just what it says. Make sure telephone numbers are clickable on mobile devices. So if you have a telephone number displayed, it will be clickable on a mobile. Updraft, backup and restore, we mentioned that one. WP author data meta remover, I've turned that one on, but in actual fact I don't think that works with this particular theme, but it's kind of a default one I put in. You can have a look at that. If you don't want to leave that running as an extra overhead, you can take that out and delete it. WP clone, you use that to install the blog, but once it's installed you don't really need it, so you can remove that if you wish, or you can use it to take snapshots of your site as a backup. Remember, currently only snapshots locally, so you need to copy that off. You need to copy the snapshot that it takes, the zip file that it takes, and download it to your PC and save it somewhere if you want to keep that absolutely safe. A WP old date post date remover, again, this works on some themes, but I don't think it actually works on this specific theme. That's why you see the dates there, hence we've got the date changer at the top for changing that over. Now the YouTube embed, the WP dev art, again, is a convenient way for adding videos to your website. Okay, and we'll have a look at that more when we go on to the widgets in the next video.